Thanks for joining us on The World Today. On the program, we're beginning with a senior Iranian official who has denied U.S. President Donald Trump's claim that Iran's new regime president has asked for a ceasefire as the United States and Israel continue their war on the country. The Iranian official says U.S. President Donald Trump's claim that the country has asked for a ceasefire is false and baseless. In a Truth Social post published earlier today, the U.S. president said Iran's new regime president had made the request, but he didn't clarify who he was referring to. Mr. Trump said that the U.S. would consider a ceasefire when Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, the U.S. will still blast Iran into oblivion, or, as they say, back to the Stone Ages. A strategic shift in Europe as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the United Kingdom will move closer to the European Union as tensions rise over the war involving Iran. The Prime Minister plans to push for stronger economic and security cooperation at an upcoming EU summit, signaling a reset in relations. This comes amid growing strains between the UK and the United States after London resisted deeper involvement in the conflict. Well, despite global uncertainty, Mr. Starmer gave reassurances to citizens that measures are in place to cushion the economic impact and ease the rising cost of living. And a landmark legal battle is unfolding in the United States as the U.S. Supreme Court prepares to hear arguments on birthright citizenship. The case challenges efforts by Mr. Donald Trump to end the long-standing constitutional right granting citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. Supporters argue that the move strengthens national security, while opponents warn it could strip rights from millions and reshape the nation's identity. With deep legal and social implications, the court's decision could redefine what it means to be an American citizen. Well, a high-stakes moment in Washington as the president says he will personally attend the Supreme Court arguments on birthright citizenship. The case centers on his executive order to end automatic citizenship for children born to undocumented or temporary residents in the United States. The move has sparked fierce legal opposition, with critics arguing it violates the Constitution, while the administration insists that the policy is necessary for national security as the U.S. Supreme Court prepares to weigh in on a decision that could reshape immigration law. Elsewhere, a growing energy crisis is fueling tensions in Europe, where Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico has accused the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of worsening the situation by blocking Russian oil transit. The dispute centers on the Druzhba pipeline, a key supply route to Central Europe, now disrupted amid conflicting claims over damage and repairs. With the war involving Iran driving global instability, oil flows through vital routes like the Strait of Hormuz are under threat. As prices surge and supply chains strain, pressure is mounting across the European Union to find urgent solutions to the problem.
Influence, no control over the crisis that has arisen. We are catching the hare by the tail. We are talking about various extreme measures in the form of consumer limits. We are doing it wrong. But of course, that's all right. But let's have a good Mr. Zelensky and let's have a good Ukraine. Because the opening of the European Union would greatly stabilize the situation not only in Slovakia and Hungary, but in the whole of Central Europe. Once again, we must appeal to the European Commission to stop playing these useless, harmful, ideological and political games and let Mr. Zelensky be forced not to harm Europe, because today Zelensky is harming us with his actions and the European Commission praises him for that.
Vládne nariadenie, ktoré sme prijali v danej situácii, bolo správne.
And let's get more on the happenings in Europe. Recently, the European Union signed a defense agreement with Ghana, a first on the African continent. It's part of a much larger strategy by the EU to extend its international partnerships in an effort to counterbalance the influence of China and Russia, as well as that of the United States. For more on this, we're joined on the program by DW correspondent Hans Brands from Berlin. Hans, great to see you today. What is the EU looking for in its initiatives in West Africa and in Africa as a whole?
Well, this agreement that has just been recently signed with Ghana, a security agreement with the European Union, obviously concentrates on the West African region, where there are a number of countries that have recently been taken over by military governments, and there is some concern about Islamist terrorism in the region. The European Union's foreign policy head, Kaya Kallas, also mentioned Nigeria, which also has an insurgency by Islamist terrorist Islamist groups that it is dealing with, and Nigeria is also being supported. At the same time, if you look at the situation in East Africa, there is war in Sudan, there is instability still in southern Sudan and Somalia. There too, security cooperation is important. That's something that the European Union is also looking at. So across Africa, there's an attempt, I think, through these kinds of cooperation, to find some sort of stability and to find reliable partners in Africa, countries that still continue to follow the democratic paths rather than authoritarian, autocratic regimes.
Right. And what does the EU have to offer to strengthen these partnerships?
In very concrete terms, the EU partnership with Ghana, for instance, involves military equipment, non-lethal military equipment, surveillance equipment, that sort of thing, which is being supplied to Ghana and also to other countries in the region. And that, I think, is on offer elsewhere in Africa as well. But at the same time, there are also economic interests that play a role here. European Union is looking for sources for all sorts of raw materials, minerals, for instance, that otherwise it would have to get from countries such as China or Russia. But it is saying that its partnership will be fairer, will be more reliable than the partnerships offered by other countries, that the raw materials will to some extent be processed in Africa and not be exported as raw materials. So there is some support for the development of economies in African countries. And also, obviously, the European Union is offering its market. It's offering, to some extent, access to one of the largest markets in the world, and hoping for an exchange of goods rather than just a one-way street, as it were, towards the European Union.
And is Europe looking for stronger partnerships only in Africa or elsewhere in the world, going by what's happening globally now?
No, absolutely. This is part of a very much of a global initiative. The European Union is looking for reliable partners across the world, also both in terms of defense, but also in terms of economic cooperation. Free trade agreements, for instance, have recently been agreed with countries in South America, but also with Australia, and there's one in the offing with India, and there's closer cooperation between the European Union and the African Union on economic matters. All of this is an attempt to build a network around the world of countries that continue to believe, that continue to support the rules-based order, that do not rely on pure strength, on economic pressure, such as would come from China or from Russia, and that can be relied on, in contrast to the United States, where Donald Trump's economic policy and international policy is very erratic and very unreliable. So an attempt to build a network around the world, including many African countries, that will continue to stabilize the global system, which is seen as becoming unstable at the moment.
Well, thanks again, Hans, for that update on that development. Well, there's more coming up on the world today, including the aftermath of the attack on communities in Plateau State in north-central Nigeria, and of course, other stories from South Africa. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're here in Nigeria, where tension erupted in Jos, the Plateau State capital, earlier today, just hours after the government eased a 48-hour curfew imposed on Angowan Rukuba on Sunday night, following an attack that left many people dead. Reports indicate that sporadic violence broke out in parts of the city, with unconfirmed claims of fresh casualties. The situation triggered panic among residents, forcing traders who had resumed business activities to abandon their shops. Eyewitnesses described the scenes of confusion as people scampered for cover amid fears of renewed attacks. Meanwhile, survivors have been sharing their experiences from their hospital beds. Our correspondent Percy Debang reports.
The usually busy streets of Jos, the Plateau State capital, are now largely deserted as the curfew takes full effect. Shops are shut, roads are quiet, and only security patrol vehicles are seen moving around to enforce compliance and maintain peace. At the Jos University Teaching Hospital, victims of the attack are recovering and recounting the terrifying moment that left at least 20 people injured.
Suddenly, I had a gunshot on my leg, and it was rapid gunshots. From nowhere, I slept on the ground, waiting for them to see how the situation would go on.
Before getting to my gate, I now saw this army truck coming, and they were shouting. So I became scared, and I started running. So they followed me, and they used their gun to hit my leg. When I fell down, they noticed that my leg was broken. So they now entered their car and left.
The incident has also affected academic activities at the University of Jos, with management confirming that students and staff were among the victims.
Unfortunately, yesterday we got an information that two of our students were involved, and one of our staff, and that is one of the reasons why we are here in the hospital to see the level of their injuries. One of the students was shot at the belly, but they are all currently responding to treatment.
As of that night, we had, unfortunately, 12 bodies. And the people that were brought alive with various degrees of injuries were about 20. I'm glad to tell you that of the 20, 19 are still alive. Unfortunately, we lost one yesterday.
At the scene of the incident, a few youths are gathered while the security personnel maintain a visible presence to ensure peace and prevent the breakdown of law and order. The chairman of Jos North Local Government Area says efforts are ongoing to fully assess the situation and maintain calm.
We had a strategic engagement to see how we can police the entire town, how we can mount a very good surveillance, a sustained surveillance, so that we don't have any form of reprisal. The dastardly act does not call for any reprisal. This is an act of terrorists. These are acts that we considered barbaric.
While calm is returning and victims receiving treatment, authorities say focus now remains on sustaining peace and supporting those affected. Percy Dabang, Channels Television News.
Elsewhere, 40 Nigerians have been deported from Mozambique after weeks in detention, sparking outcry over alleged human rights violations. Chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabiri-Rewa, urges Nigerians to stay calm while the High Commission investigates reports of violence against festival goers. The deportees returned home in 3 separate flights, yet concerns grow over missing valuables and procedural lapses as 2 Nigerians remain in Mozambique due to family ties. The Commission calls the arrests inhumane, highlighting lack of notification and disregard for proper documentation, raising fresh questions about the treatment of foreign nationals and immigration enforcement in the country.
We are in a shop. They were selling. So the officers came. You know, they said they are looking for people that sell second-hand goods without receipt. So after checking everything they want to check, they found nothing. So they now said they are inviting us to their office. So they will give us some brief information. We that have documents. All of us are legal. We are legal in the country, and we don't sell second-hand goods. We sell new goods. So they said they are inviting us. From the invitation, they took us straight to prison.
A group of police enter inside the market. There are more than 500 in number. They enter there. They ask for our documents. Everybody show his documents. They check. They are going inside everybody's shop. Ask documents, we show. Immediately after they seize document, everybody is valid. Everybody have document that they used to trade. Small time, they ask everybody to gather together. Immediately we gather together, they bundle everybody inside the car and zoom to prison, not to police station, to prison, straight. They deny us all access to our family, everything. So the government to come into our head, this is pure xenophobia. This is pure xenophobia.
I don't know the condition of my business. I don't know the condition of my shop. I don't know anything now. So we kept asking, what's the problem? What's happened? What happened? They said, no. They took everything, put us into the prison. From 28 till we were there like 1 month. It's now close to 1 month. 2 days ago, they took us out from prison 2 days ago because we went to court. We paid the lawyers. So see the document here. So the court said we did nothing. These people, we have no case file. So the court said these people, they did nothing. Look at, the court said leave them, let them go. So they said, look at, see my name here, see the stamp, see everything here. It's written in Portuguese.
And finally, at a time of global economic uncertainty, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is making a bold pitch, declaring that the country is open and ready for business. Speaking at an investment event in Johannesburg, President Ramaphosa unveiled a massive 2 trillion rand investment target, positioning the country as a resilient and reform-driven destination for global capital. More than 1,200 delegates from across the world gathered, signaling strong international confidence after South Africa already surpassed previous investment goals. But with global tensions rising and markets under pressure, the race is now on to turn promises into sustained economic growth.
Direction. Our G20 presidency elevated South Africa's global profile and deepened bilateral relationships that are today reflected in investment commitments from 15 source markets across the 5 continents. We are meeting at a time of uncertainty for the global economy. Geopolitical fragmentation, supply chain disruptions from conflicts and wars and trade tensions are radically impacting global capital flows. In such conditions, South Africa presents what I would call a favorable proposition as a resilient, credible, and reform-oriented investment destination with strong fundamentals. Your presence here as business people and investors and bankers today signals that as investors, you see what we see: real and enduring potential, long-term value, and untapped opportunity. Today we have with us more than 1,200 delegates from more than 50 countries around the world who believe in South Africa's potential and see this as a favorable place to invest and to do business. You are here because you want to be part of our growth story. Between 2018 and 2023, having set a target of attracting 1.2 trillion rand in investments, we attracted 1.5 trillion in credible, verifiable investment commitments in energy, in telecommunications, in infrastructure, property, mining, advanced manufacturing, and across a range of other sectors. This proved that South Africa is an investable market. But more importantly, it also showed that South Africa is ready to do business. Our investment strategy is anchored in sectors that will drive growth and create jobs at scale.
And that's World Today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.